Okay guys, so today we're going to go over our Chapter 1 examination. Question 1 says, which of the following statements is false? Well, when they ask you which of the following statements is false, that means that most of your statements are true, and we're looking for the ones that are false. So let's go down by them one by one. Choice A, B, C, and D are coplanar. Well, let's take a look here. I have A, B, C, and D. And are they all coplanar? The answer is yes. So this is true. So that can't be my answer. Next we have A, B, and D are collinear. Well, are they collinear? Yes, they are. So that's also true. So that can't be my answer. And then we have ray BE and ray BA are opposite rays. That means that they're rays going in opposite directions. Well, here's ray BE going this way. Here's ray BA going that way. And are they going in opposite directions? The answer is no. That is false. That is my answer. For question number 2 and question number 3, they asked you to find the length between these two segments. You can do that using either the Pythagorean theorem or the distance formula, which was on the board during the test. So let's do letter A, which are between points A and B. Points A and B are -2 and 3 and 1 and 1. Well, I labeled my coordinates x1, y1, x2, y2. I wrote down my formula. And then I started plugging in. So x number 1 is -2 minus x number 2, which is 1. And then I have y number 1 minus y number 2. When I do that, I get inside my parentheses -3 squared and 2 squared. That gives me 9 and 4, and that gives me 13. But remember, all of that is happening underneath the square root sign. So I take my calculator, I type in 13, I take the square root, and that gives me 3.60. My answer is 3.60. Let's take a look at number 3. Question number 3 is asking to find the distance between points C and D. And those coordinates are 3 and 4, and -4 and -3. There are my coordinates. 3 and 4, and -4 and -3. Well, the first thing I did is I labeled them. The next thing I did was I wrote down my distance formula. And after that, I began to substitute or enter. X number 1 is -4 minus x number 2 is 3. Y number 1 is -3 minus y number 2, which is 4. These both give me -7. These both give me negative 7. So I have 49 plus 49, and 49 plus 49 gives me 98. But again, it's all happening underneath the square root sign. Square root, and that gives me 9.89, which is my answer. Question number 4 was asking us to find the measure of the angles. Well, here they wanted the measure of angle EAB. Well, A is the vertex, so EAB, here it's E to A to B. And I hope we can see that starting from 0 to there, it's 120 degrees between these two rays. So EAB is 120 degrees. Number 5, they asked for the measure of angle CAF, which is this measure here. And we can see here that CAF is going from 80 degrees to 155 degrees. And I'm looking for the difference. So I have in 155 minus 80 degrees, and I get 75 degrees. And finally, they want the measure of angle BAD. And if I look here, that goes from here to here to there. Well, angle BAD goes from 120 to 180. So I'm looking at the difference from 120 to 180. So I subtract 180 minus 120 gives me 60 degrees. So that's 60 degrees. Questions 7, 8, and 9 were asking to use this image here and to say what kind of angles were they. Were they obtuse angles, were they straight angles, or were they acute angles? So if I look here, angle EAB is 120 degrees, so that is obtuse. CAF is acute because it's less than 70 degrees. And finally, I had angle EAD, which is a straight angle. It's not one of these questions here, but it's a straight angle. And that would be my answer. Next, we had questions 10, 11, and 12, which said find the coordinates of the midpoint given this certain endpoints here. So they wanted you to find the midpoint with these coordinates. Well, here's number 10. Remember that we said the midpoint is the average of the x's and the y's. So I take my x's, I add them, divide by 2. I take my y's, I add them, and divide by 2. Well, I take my 2x's, which are 0 and 0. I add them, which is 0 divided by 2, and I get 0. I take my x's, which are 0 and negative 12. 0 plus negative 12 divided by 2. Well, nothing plus negative 12 is negative 12 divided by 2 gives me negative 6. So my coordinates are 0 and negative 6. A lot of you forgot to put that negative sign there in for your answer, and that's probably why you got it wrong. Number 11, we have points 2 and 9, and -2 and -5. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the average of my x's. My x's are 2 and -2, so I can say 2 plus -2. You can even say 2 plus 2. Excuse me, 2 minus 2, because this 2 is positive and this is negative. You're going to get the same thing. So 2 plus -2 is 0. Divided by 2 gives me 0. There's my x. Now I'm going to do my y's. Well, it's going to be 9 plus -1. And if you want to put 9 minus 1, that's the same thing because you're just bringing them together. It's going to give me 8 divided by 2. And 8 divided by 2 is 4. So my coordinates are, again, 0 and 4. And if you remember, the instruction said to put the parentheses and a comma between the numbers to get full credit. In order to get full credit. Number 12, the 2 points I have for 12 are -3 and -3, 9 and -15. So again, I'm going to take my x's, which are -3 and 9. -3 plus 9 is going to give me 6 divided by 2, so it gives me 3. My y's come next, so that's -3 and -15. That's like saying -3 plus -15 is -18. And if you wanted to put -3 minus 15, you're going to get the same thing because 3 bad apples and 15 bad apples are 18 bad apples. Divided by 2 is -9. So my coordinates are 3 and -9. Next question was question number 13. And 13 says the following. Given angle BAD and a third ray AC in the interior of angle BAD, if the measure of angle BAC is 129 and the measure of angle CAD is 51, then the two angles are, well, you know what? Let's draw these angles. I have angle BAD and I have a third ray in the middle. And they tell me that the ray BAC is 129. Well, I know 129 is a pretty big angle. So let me draw that here. Here's B, here's A, here's C, and I know that's 129 degrees. And I know that ray AC is in between angle BAD, so it should be something like this right here. There's D. And they tell me that CAD is 51. CAD is 51 degrees. Well, if I look here, are they supplementary? Let me see. Yes, they are. They are supplementary. They are not complementary. And if they're adjacent to each other and they're supplementary, then they're also going to be what? A linear pair. So the answer is D, because they are supplementary and they create a straight line. In question number 14, they tell us that EF bisects angle TEA. Now you see the little dash right here? This little arc right here means that the whole angle is how big? 74 degrees. So if this whole angle is 74 degrees and EF is bisecting it, and I'm looking for angle TEF, well then these are two congruent angles, which means that 74 divided by 2. So if I take 74 divided by 2, I get 37. So this right here is 37 degrees. If we look here for number 15, again, number 15 tells me that this angle here is 29, but notice there's no arc between both sides, so this means that just this little angle right here is 29 degrees. EF is still a bisector, so if EF is a bisector and this is 29, then this is also 29, and the measure of angle TEA is going to be both of these together. So it's going to be 29 times 2, which is 58 degrees. Next, we had questions 16 and 17. They tell us that in question 16 that BD bisects angle ABC. Well, if this ray here bisects these two angles, then we know that these two angles are congruent. So then we can say, for number 16, we can say then that 2x plus 24 is equal to 3x minus 12, because the two angles are congruent. And if they are congruent, well then we can just solve using regular algebra. So x comes out to be 36 degrees. If we look at question number 17, again we have the same scenario where BD is bisecting this angle, angle ABC, so both of these are congruent as well. So we can also set them equal to each other. Again, they're congruent angles. So there's a 1 in front of here. And x is equal to 4. For questions 18, 19, and 20, they told us to fill in the missing diagram here. Well, if angle 1 is 44 degrees, they wanted to know what angle 3 is. Well, if you notice, these are vertical angles, and vertical angles are congruent. So this is also 44 degrees. If angle 2 is 78 degrees, then angle 1 is, well, if this is 78 degrees, notice that these two are a linear pair. So it would be 180 minus 72 degrees, minus 78 degrees is equal to 102. So this is 102 degrees. And then finally, if the measure of angle 4 is 33, then the measure of angle 2, well, if 4 is 33, notice these are also what? Vertical angles again. And vertical angles are congruent. The last questions here, they wanted us just to find x. Well, look here. We know that these two angles here, which have the x, are a linear pair. And a linear pair are supplementary, meaning they add up to 180. So we just could have said 2x plus 10 plus 4x plus 20 is equal to 180 degrees. Combine like terms. Subtract 30 from both sides. And we're going to get, put it over here, 6x is equal to 150. Divide by 6, divide by 6, and x is equal to 25. Number 25, they were just asking for y. Again, notice that these two angles here are a linear pair. And if I add them together, they equal up to 180 degrees. Combine like terms. The 10s cancel out. Divide both sides by 3. And y is equal to 60. The next to last question here, again, was asking for the values of x and y. I hope you notice that these two here, guys, are a linear pair. So if I add these two together, they're equal to 180 degrees. So right away, I know x is going to be either A or B, because x is 47 And these are the only choices that have it. So it can't be C, E, or D. And since I know that X is 47, then I know that this angle here has to be 47 minus 180, which means that it's 133. So I can say that 2y minus 17 is equal to 133, just like we did in class.